Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Today's Restaurant News Networking Group at 11 a.m. We are a group of professional vendors to the restaurant industry, as well as inviting restaurateurs to attend our meetings. The reason for the meetings are for us to get to know each other on a personal basis and feel comfortable recommending each other, so that we can do a good job for the restaurateurs. Any restaurateur who may be watching this, please feel free to get in touch with us so that we may be able to help you with a problem that you might have and or an issue that you're dealing with. And our telephone number to be reached is 561-620-8888. And for those of you who are members who are not here, I assume you're on vacation or getting your kids back into school. But again, the purpose of this meeting is to participate. The more you participate, the more successful you will be in this group, because people get to know you on a personal basis and feel comfortable recommending you. So again, I thank you all for coming. And we were just talking about that underground economy. I don't know if you want to continue that conversation, knowing that we're being videoed. Does anybody have any thoughts on? Well, I'm going to pose the question. As we all know, inflation is running high. That's as high as it's been over the last 40 years. So have your companies, or have you changed anything in respect to the inflation and prices and supply? Have you changed anything that may be helpful for us to hear about? And I also want to mention, since every one of us here is basically a salesperson, that's why we're here. If you have an issue that you think is giving you trouble, that you may want to learn something, may learn to do it better, please bring it up at the meeting, because we are all here. We've got hundreds of years of experience amongst the members. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Today's Restaurant so that you can see previous meetings. So I'm basically opening up the floor to discuss the effects of the inflation and anything else. I mean, if anybody has recommended anybody in the group, have any experiences. I know I sent Andy something yesterday about a new brewery that's opening up in 2023. Hopefully that's helpful. So I'm opening the floor.
Hey, Howard, Andy here. Thanks for that. And certainly sorry I've been absent the last few weeks, certainly missed it. But it's interesting that you brought up inflation as your question here this morning, because in general, technology has a way to be deflationary. And that's kind of how we view our product. So as restaurants are, facing an increase in either food costs or production costs, and specifically in our case, in beer costs, that actually is a more compelling argument for our technology to kind of bolt on to their restaurant, so they can bring down that price or that cost of the beer that they're producing. So in one sense, what's that saying? For every bad trade, there's a good trade, depending on what side of the trade you're on. And this inflationary period that people are going through folds right into kind of our argument in one of our value propositions. Certainly on our supply side, we've had to deal with that as well. The worst one was shipping costs and overseas, and containers coming overseas, but we've definitely been able to kind of work around that to some degree. But for us, it kind of falls right into one of our value propositions. It's and maybe that could also be indicative with how busy we've been over these last 4 to 6 months. But it's I'm sure it's definitely a struggle for those that are out there.
Yeah, well, of course, the supply chain is a problem, and then there are companies like John McCabe and Carpigiani that are taking steps to start manufacturing in the States and or Mexico. Was it Mexico, John, or the United States?
So we're in North Carolina.
North Carolina. So that's a big step for a company like that.
Yeah, it's a big step. It's a challenge. We're still having issues getting components in offshore though, and coming in from Italy. And like we've got a ship that's waiting in Savannah, supposed to be offloaded this week. They're telling us maybe first week in September. So it's just crazy. It's hard to, your customers, they think you're lying to them or something. You say, well, we just don't know. We don't know when it's going to get here. It should have been here, but we're trying, and we can't tell you any different than we estimate it. You'll see it, in a month. So it's been challenging for a lot of people. I guess the thing is just to keep going and work as hard as you can, and do as much, put a little extra effort in, and hopefully you'll overcome all these issues. I've got a good lead for everybody. I've been getting a good amount of business from the Boca Resort. I don't know if you people know about that. Michael Dell bought it for just under $1 billion, and
Yeah,
I think they're putting 10 new restaurants in there.
they always have restaurants turning over.
Yeah.
Well,
What
we
was the
know
name of
the
that?
director of catering there personally. He's a neighbor of ours.
Well,
So
it looks
he
like they're
runs
really
all the-
trying to turn it around. I mean, 20 years ago, that was the place in South Florida.
Yes. So you got that, John? Did you get that deal?
We've got 3 or 4
Great.
things going there. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So we're pretty happy about it.
Congratulations.
You bet.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
Well,
That
here's something else for everybody. John, you just mentioned that you got 3 or 4 different jobs in the hotel. That is newsworthy.
Mhm.
If you, and this is collectively to everybody, if you want to publicize the fact that you got a particular deal, send Terry what we call a press release. It doesn't have to be formal. 25
I'll
to
fix it.
70 words. We'll fix it up, and we'll put it in our "What's Going On" column. It's not so much that it happened. It's a way of keeping your company name in front of people who read our publication or who see it online. It's just a name. I can't tell you how many times. In fact, it happened to us the other night. We were driving somewhere. We were, I think, in Pompano, and I looked over to the side of the road, and I saw a truck of one of our advertisers. And I said to Terry, "Look, there's so-and-so's company," because I know the logo, I know the company, and there's the truck. That's all part of promotion. It's all plays a part. It's recognition. Once you recognize something, you want to use it. So that just as a drop.
Thanks.
And again, they may not need it today, but like Carpigiani, John, Ed did send me a single spreadsheet that I had one of your new pieces of equipment. He sent me a beautiful page. I went onto the spec sheet and I wasn't able to get it off of the 9-page, but he sent it to me. So that'll be in next month. So we try and keep you guys certainly in the news because we get constant press releases from you. So we offer everyone that same opportunity. And knowing that you got those jobs at the Boca Resort, that's kind of, everybody knows that resort. So send me that information. I'm happy to put it in for you.
We'd like to. Sometimes our dealers don't want that public information out.
Okay, that's
Right,
different.
right.
That's
Yeah,
different.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
There's
that's
always
okay then.
cases. Yeah, there's
I
always
wouldn't
cases
ever
like
do
that.
it without asking. Yeah. All right.
So,
Good
so,
enough.
so Howard, back to the inflation conversation. You know, one of the things that we find as strategic supply chain partners when we go in and we do our free consultation analysis of a restaurant's distribution agreements, is many owner operators, small companies to medium-sized companies really don't understand how they have aligned themselves in the distribution network. And so example would be that they are on a margin schedule by category. So for example, seafood may be marked up by 6%, produce may be marked up by 3%, and beef may be marked up by 10%. And so when you start really dissecting down that information and looking at what they're buying and looking at how their margin schedules are set up, we go in and we evaluate that, and then we renegotiate the agreements that they have in distribution. And many times there's a significant savings as low as 6%, as much as 19%, depending on how they negotiate it on their behalf. A lot of the owner operators out there, executive chefs and so on, generally are getting a street account model, and we bring them into a national account pricing model through our negotiations. So we're basically getting small companies national pricing, like a Applebee's or a TGI Fridays or a Chili's, similar format. And we collectively pull all of our accounts together and we address national pricing that way. Where an independent owner operated has 3 restaurants, 10 restaurants, 20 restaurants, they don't have that buying power, therefore they can't have that negotiation. And so from fighting inflation, and there's an enormous amount of money that's tied up in distribution. There's supply chain issues, obviously, everybody's talking about that as well. And so once the agreements have been modified or changed or updated with the new pricing model, then we start attacking and looking at all of the items that a company may be buying, looking for alternative options. And in many cases, there's significant savings there as well, usually 5 to 6%, 7% in that range. So, you know, in theory, we could save a company 13% up to 25% when we look at both those initiatives that we take on when we bring a client on board.
Yeah, it's really astounding to me that more restaurants are, I shouldn't say more, it's astounding that restaurants are not taking advantage of companies like yours and Bob Anteville's company that specifically saves them money at no upfront cost to them. It's really the way to go in this economy. And you do the hard work for them.
We do. Yeah, and I think you know, the very sound businessmen and women out there that are very conscientious of their profit and loss statement, understand the challenge of inflation. You know, when we bring these presentations to them and they see the numbers, they're very grateful and happy that there's that kind of savings. And there's others who, you know, just for whatever reason felt like they had cut themselves a really good deal with the distributor and they don't believe some of the data that is being shown. You know, our transparency process is exactly that. We're collecting data that they have access to. We're not manipulating or manufacturing data. We're just taking the information we have. We compare it to other organizations that we do business with, other clients that we have. We compare apples to apples. We have all of the distribution companies' information, so we can look at, you know, if they're using, say, a Cisco, we can look at US Foods representation of the same item and see what the savings could potentially be. So there's a lot of access points that they just don't have. So a lot of times they just don't believe that there's that much savings, which, I mean, all you have to do is go to the grocery store to know that, you know, prices have exponentially jumped in the last year. You know, we're seeing public reporting from distribution companies, like the most recent Cisco report was up 14.2% inflation for the second quarter of 2022. And that's after a 13.4% jump in the first quarter. So, you know, it's very available information for people to look at. So when the savings information is shown after we've done our work, we either get, wow, that's great, move forward, or I don't believe what you're saying sometimes. And that's unfortunate that, you know, that people don't really have that open-mindedness to the process, I guess.
I think if you can get to the right people, they appreciate your analysis and what you do. Unfortunately, sometimes the buyer looks at it like, geez, if I make a change, I'm like, I've been not doing my job all this time.
Yeah.
It's almost like I made a mistake, you know?
Yeah. Well, and we've had that happen where, you know, we're talking to a purchasing manager or you know, somebody high up on the food chain of a company. We were talking with one recently that had 25 locations, and the purchasing manager immediately said, I haven't been doing this very long. I kind of got pushed into this job. I'm not really good at it. And when that happens, we're a support system. You know, we don't make decisions. We just bring information and options. And so in that kind of scenario, you know, let us do the work. We'll show you what tactic to take, what strategy to take. We're not going to bump you out of your job. You know, that's not the intent. The intent is to help support your company and help you save money. However, you know, there is a little bit of what you're saying, a little bit of apprehensiveness, fear, or thinking they're going to get displaced in the process. And I think that's just part of, you know, anytime you try to acquire knowledge from another source, there's a chance that your ego may be bruised or you feel intimidated by that, you know, so that happens. I mean, I think probably happens to everybody on the call here to some degree.
Hey, Kevin, don't you think that your industry has a little bit of a, I guess the POS is when they started coming out and everything, like cash registers. A lot of these guys, they're cutting deals behind the owner's back and
Sure.
they're getting a couple bucks on the back end.
Absolutely
So
true.
doesn't that hurt you? I mean, you know, that's
Well, it
what's happening.
hurts in some yeah, I mean, there's, you know, we discover a lot of that along the way. You know, the executive chef's he's getting tickets from whoever to go to see whatever, trips to, you know, out of country for a resort because they're buying from a particular, there's a whole host of things that go on behind the scenes. And that becomes a challenging part of conversation sometimes, you know, because sometimes the owner doesn't know that's happening. It's a different conversation. Many times it's the owner's involved in that. And so there's some additional revenue off the book, so to speak, that's taking place. And so usually when that gets discovered in the process, you know, there's a conversation that centers around, you know, your company is being adversely affected. You're always paying for those type of backdoor promotional type of venues, either in the price of your products, and it's obviously having an adverse effect on how you function from a profitability point of view. And ultimately, you're going to have to transfer that cost over to your customer. And many times that's enough to stop that process and move forward. Other times people are comfortable with the way things are and they decide that they don't want us to move forward with that.
You should read the background on National Cash Register and how they got around it, because they got to the owners and then the owners started realizing that, yeah, people should be using cash registers because they were getting ripped off.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting story.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Terry, what are you seeing in the way of new projects coming on?
A lot. I'm
Really?
actually blown away, really blown away at what I was just looking now at another email that I have. And there's many companies, many restaurant chains. I get these emails all day long that are coming into, well, a lot of them are moving their corporate offices out of places like California. They're moving them to Tennessee, the Carolinas, and Florida, and opening a ton of new places. Now, I'm also seeing, John, if I tell you, and you probably already know, but the food stall halls are unbelievable. People, are you seeing the amount of shipping containers being turned into actual food
courts.
halls?
Yep.
I mean, because it's so inexpensive to do it that way. Now, I'm not saying everyone, but there are a lot of them. And I'm trying to actually keep up with these food halls And a lot of them are air conditioned. So people are going in and they're easy to set up. It's a no-brainer for many startup places. But also the chains are opening new places. I'm seeing a lot of new places where people were maybe doing pop-ups, doing things at home. They're now opening restaurants. In this economy, they are taking that chance and opening a brick and mortar. And I'm blown away at how many there are. In the reports, it's just unbelievable. It's truly unbelievable. I mean, I have 50 to 60 brand new leads every month in these reports that are under construction or just coming in or planning stages, or where they're at, where Debbie is. They're looking for properties. They're looking for, they've got the land, but they haven't started the process yet. There are a lot.
See,
So
what I'm seeing from my side is that exactly what you're saying. There's a lot of chains coming here, and those chains have their own in-house design. But when it comes to new facilities of restaurants, I'm seeing a big drop in that suddenly. And I don't know why.
honestly, I'll tell you what. I'm going to send you a private email. All right. And I want you to take a look at this only because it has to do with your particular, what you do. And actually, I'm going to do that now.
See, because what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a lot of the not necessarily mom and pops, but the companies that usually get chains that were doing places. We were super busy, and now all of a sudden we've hit like a plateau. We're still busy, but we're not. And I'm trying to figure it out. Is it really just that time in the industry that it's getting back to its normal flow? Because usually you'll see from September to November in Florida, you'll see a downfall of, let's say, designs. And then it will start to pick up. Yeah, it'll start to pick up in December, January. And that's why when we're all over the country, a lot of our people, though, from New York now are shooting for Florida.
Yeah.
And so now there's nothing opening. I mean, I've got 3 restaurants in New York right now. And they're people from England, and they don't even know what the hell they're doing.
John, one of the things that has been very top of mind in conversation with us is the labor force and being able to staff current locations and then have enough staffing to open more locations.
That's correct.
And I think
Staffing is huge.
I think it took a while for that to have the effect that's going to have in the future. And we're probably seeing some of that now, is that many companies are making decisions going forward and slowing down their developmental plans because they just can't find a way to get staff. So they're running currently 30% short approximately in their current locations. And they're all thinking in terms of how do we fix the problem we have currently, and then we open more locations. We're just going to continue to have this as a challenge. And I don't see that challenge, frankly, going away in the near future. I think that's going to be a multi-year process, I hate to say. So I think that's maybe you're seeing some of that, John.
I think we have a double-edged sword here. I heard a comment yesterday. I'm not sure if it was somebody from this group or not. And they said inflation is driving people back into the workforce because the increase in prices and everything is necessitating the people who have been staying out of the workforce coming back in because they need to get more money to keep up with inflation.
But I'm seeing it in New York, and right now, like getting ready for this big project that's ready to open in a couple weeks. We had like a whole bunch of workers that showed up, and not one of them spoke English, and they were the nicest people. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to, get in the middle of like a political thing, but I can tell you that every one of them came across the border recently, and that's what they told me.
Yeah.
And they're allowed to work, and they don't have to pay taxes up to a certain point of it. And that's what's happening on my end. I mean, I'm seeing it in the field.
Well, Governor Abbott is feeding the rest of the country labor force. He's sending everybody
Yeah,
all over
yeah.
the country.
Well,
Yeah, I'm gonna
The other
jump,
thing-
I'm gonna jump in. I'm gonna jump in on that, on the payroll, the business owner standpoint. I heard P&L in there somewhere. And I'll be quite frank on it. Business owners today, you know, especially folks that are outsourcing with Paychex and ADP, year-over-year payroll increases, midterm increases. My business alone in the past month has skyrocketed, and we're getting into payroll season. Their biggest question is, I'm paying weekly. I want to cut my costs. What can you do? Is it going to impact my employees going from 52 pays to 26? Business owners are so frustrated. The employee counts are low, and they're moving, they're shifting because they don't have the people coming in now paying weekly. So now they're all moving to bi-weekly, which makes good business sense from a cost perspective and, you know, from a budgeting standpoint. But I'm telling you right now, the rosters are still low. The P&Ls, the expenses on the payroll solution is still high. We're driving that down for them. And we're seeing a significant shift in clients, you know, looking at every line item right now.
I'm seeing these people, and I'm like, the construction, some of the labor forces that I'm seeing that are coming in, and very interesting, because they're being counted on the rolls as if they're getting jobs, but then they're not really American citizens that are getting the jobs. And they're getting, some of them told me they're only getting $7 an hour, and other ones told me that they're getting 18. It just depends on where they're coming from.
But why don't the Americans want to work? They could have those jobs.
It's not a matter of the Americans not wanting to work. It's the Americans used to do that job for $25 an hour.
Right. But
And
they
so
have to
now they're just
understand.
getting them cheaper.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but you
but
got to
one-
understand it's that or you're on welfare, period.
Well,
One other
that's
thing
the
to consider. I was gonna say, one other thing to consider is we're kind of feeding this because there was so much government money available. I think a lot of restaurants hung on longer than they would have. So we're not seeing that cycle turn as fast as it used to turn. But there are people are also using that money to start new opportunities. So you're basically now there's a much higher demand for products and services because of that. And we have the supply chain issues. So it's kind of that, as Howard said, it's a double-edged sword. We're feeding it at both ends, and that's what's causing it. So we just need the time to catch back up from the time that people were not spending during the pandemic. Once they spend through that money, that spending goes down. And same thing as businesses, once that money evaporates, eventually, you know, it's nature is going to take its course and some are going to go out, and that will then fund the others that are starting up. So it's just, I think it's a waiting period to get through that, you know, the two ends of the spectrum converging.
Correct.
That's just my opinion.
You know,
Correct.
opening a restaurant in great times is risky business. But if you're looking to open up a restaurant now, some of that risk is mitigated by the fact that many restaurants have closed and equipment is on the market at less money than the cost to get new. It's quicker, it's in stock, you're ready to go. And restaurants are set up with their exhaust system. That saves a ton of money if you're opening up a restaurant. So a lot of people who were in, like Terry said, people working at home, people, ghost kitchens, they want to open up a brick and mortar operation, they're available. So that's going to feed the market as well.
Look, no one knows what tomorrow's going to bring. All we can do is our best. There's many reasons for many different things. We just have to do the best that we can in any possible way that you can, and just hope for the best, honestly. I mean, just do what you do as good as you can do it, and it will eventually come back. Honestly, I mean, really, we sat here and look how many different reasons we all came up with, and they're all valid. So all of these have to be addressed and fixed. That's all. I'm sorry.
I think what we're going to start to see though is we're going to start to see, I know I have one coming up. It's a ghost kitchen and it's out of a container. It's as low as you can get. And if the health departments don't start catching up with it, there's going to be a problem there, because the health department's got to learn that people make mistakes at night and on the weekends as well. And they got to start working round the clock and investigating these ghost kitchens, not just during the day. And it's a major problem. You go to these ghost kitchens at night, and some of the stuff that you see going on, I would never order from a ghost kitchen.
No, I wouldn't either. Just knowing what I know, which is, way more than I do, but I wouldn't, just because they're a ghost kitchen, and they don't have to be regulated, but they're not. So
I think I might have mentioned this last week. Terry and I went for lunch at a restaurant that we'd never been to before. That's fairly new, I would say under a year. And there was a seating area and there was a little bar which led with an open kitchen kind of a situation. And the owner spent the good part of an hour while we were there cutting lemons. He shouldn't, you know what I'm saying? He wasn't doing anything to further his business. And he wasn't doing anything.
Cut lemons?
What's that?
How long does it take to cut lemons?
Exactly. He was filling
an
up.
hour.
He was filling up a bucket of lemon slices, and I just sat there and watched him, and I was amazed. And while he was doing that, he would occasionally come out and serve a table. That makes no sense to me.
Well, there's a lot to know about, why he was doing that. I mean, who else was there, who didn't show up? And I know it seems like a tedious task, but if you have a busy night and you don't have that stuff prepared, you will drown in cutting lemons in the middle of a busy night.
I agree with you, but he had people around. He had plenty of people around. He could have, he doesn't have to call, he doesn't have to wait on tables when he's got 3 wait people who are doing nothing.
In a small place. It was a small place.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have ran the place by myself, honestly.
Yeah. If you're a seasoned, you could do that. But I also am learning, this has been like pre-pandemic, but more so in the pandemic, of just employees refusing to do tasks, especially in the restaurant industry, of like, I don't do that, or no, you don't pay me enough, and putting out a lot of demands. So I can understand him getting to a point of, this has to get done, I just have to do it. And, just because it's a body doesn't mean it's good, it's worthy. And you're right, it's probably better off to just show up a little earlier, stay a little later, come in on your downtime to do all these tasks and run it yourself. But that whole employees thinking that they have the right to tell the owners what to do. I mean, that's whole shift has to change completely. I don't know exactly what that situation is, and maybe he's just given up and not really knowing what he should do. A lot of owners don't know what it is to be on the floor and what to prioritize, how to prioritize. I see that all the time. And they just do what they feel they need to do, but they don't have that whole customer service side of how to really take care of the customers and to build their business.
I worked for a large restaurant chain for 30 years, and we spent a lot of time talking about changing the perspective of how you look at what you do. And the terminology we used was owner mentality versus employee mentality. And there's 2 different mindsets that you take on when you have these different functions and roles. And some owner operators have never been able to give up making that transition out of an employee mentality to an owner mentality.
True.
And so, when I was leading large groups of managers and having conversations with them, we would talk a lot about, are you working as an hourly employee? Or are you working as an owner in your decision-making and your action steps? Because it's very easy when you're in the industry to get sucked into being an hourly employee. You could be an hourly employee all day long if you don't look for other options and alternatives in the course of your day. So an owner mentality would be somebody who's always looking at, how do I drive sales? How do I be more efficient? How to make sure I'm cleaner? How do we present the products and the package better? An employee is always doing a functional job. And sometimes owners take on functions, not take on ownership. And so I think possibly what you guys were seeing that day was somebody, for a variety of reasons, maybe it's just them, they like to be hands-on and they want to function as an hourly because they feel like they're getting something done. That's adding value to their organization. Sometimes just the staff won't do some work, whatever those reasons are. But it takes a focus on, I'm not going to let myself get sucked in. And I use the term black hole. I'm not going to get myself sucked into that black hole, because everything that we do it costs money. So if I'm going to spend my time, that's money, and I'm going to spend my time, I'm going to spend on a way to generate more income than the money that I'm costing myself at that moment in time in the future. And if I have people standing around not doing anything, then I'm just, maybe not leveraging the folks that are there.
If he would have stopped cutting lemons and come out to the dining room and stopped at our table and said, "Hi, how's everything? Everything going okay? Nice to see you. I haven't seen you before." We'd be ready to go back. But right now, we're not rushing back.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not rushing back because the food wasn't that good.
That's another, yeah.
Very lemony.
I wasn't crazy about it.
Yeah, very citric.
And and owners in small businesses, and we have quite a few that are really excellent at this. They understand the need to be present and interact at a high level because they own it. It's their place. It's their name on the building, even though it may not be their real name, whatever they call that concept. They get it. I mean, they're out shaking hands, kissing babies, directing staff to do the job that they're hired to do, and they're very passionate about that part of the process, and they're achieving great results because of that. Obviously, food quality and ticket times and food safety and all these other things that we're all responsible for in the industry have to also take a high level of importance too. But they're the mayor of the city. They're the mayor of their restaurants. They're out there, presenting themselves in a way that is very pro business building, and they're effective at it. And then there's others who they got a job, they got a title, and they're not that interested in that part of the job. And they kind of resort back to functions versus purpose. And, they wind up doing a lot of the hourly functions. And I think there's a byproduct of being short-staffed that forces you to kind of migrate into that mindset. When you're short 4 or 5 servers on a shift and you need them, and there's 3 of you, you're going to jump in, you're going to be running food and busting tables and doing all kinds of stuff.
That's totally understandable.
Let me ask everyone a question. How are you as a restaurant owner, and you're, even Debbie asking you and saying and asking an employee to cut lemons, and they say, no, that's not part of my job. Now, I'm sorry, but if I were the owner, that person would not be there.
Right.
You're there for 8 hours a day, and whatever they ask you to do, unless it's unreasonable, you do it. And you say, of course.
I agree. And I think there's a whole vetting process as well. As I wouldn't hire somebody that has that mentality. But unfortunately, just, like Kevin said, there's these owners that don't know how to be the manager. They don't know how to run a restaurant. They know how to hide behind the bar or to hide in the kitchen or they cut lemons. And they let these employees walk all over them. And yeah, I would not go into hiring staff that has that mentality. And I was at a restaurant a million years ago. I was in my 20s, and the owner was like, I just want to hire this girl because she's cute and pretty. And she came to the bar and she's like, I'll have a penny vodka on the rocks. I'm like, get out right now. It's like, I don't care how pretty you are. I don't care that he likes you. I'm firing you. Goodbye. And it was the busy as anything Saturday night, right in the middle of rush hour. And, you know, the owner screaming at me. I'm like, she just asked me for penne vodka on the rocks. He's like, you can leave now. I mean, I don't care. If the owner doesn't know how to be an owner or hire the right people, I've always been the employee that's like, I don't care. If you're in my way, I'll do it myself. I will make it happen. I know how to run this restaurant with blindfolded. I know what every role needs, what needs to happen in every role. I will get it done and I will point the fingers. But that's what the owner should be doing instead of, well,
Yes.
she's cute. and
Yes.
pretty. It's like, she's
Yes.
being cute and pretty to me. So gotta go.
Yeah, further on that, Debbie, I think it's a lot has to do with the owner's leadership style, and his passions come through the staff. So if you see a guy cutting lemons, what do you expect of his staff? So I don't know if it's so
Right.
much that the employees didn't want to cut lemons, it's that the owner doesn't know how to lead by example and motivate his team to, you know, have them feel a part of it. And I think a lot of it is that's how those people wind up, and it's just an hourly job, and that's all I'm going to do is the bare minimum, is they don't have a passionate leader, and it takes a good leader to motivate your team.
I
You're right.
was just happy.
100% right.
And wait staff doesn't want to do any of the back work, you know, the prep work, setting up napkins and silverware and all that. They figure if I'm not in a way where I can make tips, I'm not bothering with anything.
Yeah, we had
Well,
an
if you
issue
take
with that
that
in our
job,
industry.
It's your
Yeah,
job.
we had an issue with that where, you know, our tech team would fight against sales. You know, they'd be like, you know, oh, that's not my job or whatever. And I literally, the way I worded that is, without sales, you don't have a paycheck. So view them as the people who sign your paycheck, and
Exactly,
you need to work
exactly.
with them. You need to get it done. And that's that motivation of, hey, without that, you don't have a job. And the same thing in a restaurant, without customers, the staff doesn't have a job.
Right.
So we've got to do everything we can to service the customers, or you're not going to have a job.
Exactly.
Dr. Rob, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say, you know, I'm hearing a lot of variables here. You know, Helen and I, for 1 year, worked in a kosher restaurant, and the owner didn't know how to manage it. She was in the catering business for so long. She should have stayed in that. But Helen and I in the back, we did a lot of food preparation. It was organized to that degree, but she couldn't lead. She couldn't lead her staff, and a lot of people kept on leaving. That's one issue. Another issue is the fact is there's so many, you know, restaurants are opening, they're closing, they're not managed. I heard yesterday, and I was very disturbed by this, that the Festival Flea Market is closing up. And what's going to happen to all those vendors, those restaurants?
No way.
Yeah,
I
they're
love to go
closing up.
there.
Yeah, me
They're
too.
throwing it down and they're putting in warehouses. And, you know, it's like, what's going to happen? They said they're going to try to find, you know, help some of the vendors in there, but I don't know, what was it, 12 or 13
250
fast
shots.
food? Fast
Oh,
food
I guess I
restaurants.
should have went more and bought something.
What's that?
How
I should
come?
have went more often and bought something, I guess.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
I was just
all of it.
thinking, are they going to take their machines and vendor
Yeah.
cards?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know.
they
but,
will.
yeah.
Everything will have to go because it's all individual. I knew people that worked there that had their own stalls and everything was theirs. They brought everything in. So
They just
Right.
opened up. They just opened up a kosher place like maybe 6 months ago there from Hollywood. I think it was from Hollywood. And now these people are going to either have to find a new place, or I don't know what's going to happen. But the owner wants to sell because of COVID and everything like
That
that.
was-
But that is unmediated circumstances. I mean, they have no control. It's not about organizing
Right.
their.
but you
You
know
know-
that going in, it's not your place. That is a
Right, but if you
factor.
have a lease for a certain amount of
Right.
time.
It's like
You think
leasing
it's
an
gonna be there.
apartment. You know it could change at any time.
Right.
And the owner knows that right now with the properties being high, he can get a whole lot for it, more than he could have. So, you know, it's always not what it seems. Sometimes it's just other things. Who knows?
No,
Maybe he's
but
going through a divorce and his wife
me-
wants out. Who knows?
But what I was saying is the fact is because of COVID and the fact that, you know, I don't know if that's the
It was
reason
very
why a lot of
slow there.
workers don't want to come back and go into the restaurant business. But it's just that this is just another contributing factor. And it's like, oh, what do we do to help those people?
Buy more
Well,
stuff.
Take a look at the people themselves. Like, for instance, the number one reason that they can't get people to come to work for them is usually because the manager really doesn't know how to manage, exactly what you said. And if you
Exactly.
use that and look at different restaurants, which restaurants are doing well, they're the ones that have always treated their employees well.
Right.
They've always had a rapport with their employees. And people like Chick-fil-A, how come they have no problem finding people? And they can retain the same people for the whole 4 years that these kids are in college. And
They're a
they-
terrific company to work, along with
Yeah.
Texas Roadhouse. They have
And
the
it's not the
same,
money. It's not the
Absolutely.
money. It's the training, it's the respect.
Yeah.
It's, you know, and that guy who was cutting lemons, if he was smart, you know, he would be doing it with an employee to show the employee he's not afraid to work. And like you said, come out to the tables, excuse himself, go out to the tables, but then return and keep working with the employees. But what I'm seeing across the board is that a lot of managers, the problem is they don't know how to manage. And I wouldn't want to work for them.
you're right.
Let me jump in here for a minute. I want to just thank you for a really great conversation this morning. And for the benefit of those people who may be watching us on YouTube, I'd like for them to know who we are, what we do. So if you could, let's do a 1 minute like elevator presentation for each one of us so that we will make ourselves known to them. Peter, you want to start us off?
Coming. Who is it?
You're on.
Peter left, I think.
No, he's right there.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
Thank you.
You have to mute.
It is all right. John, good morning. John Marinek.
John Marinick Food Service Consultants. We do restaurant designs and consulting on restaurants. And Peter, I think it was your microphone was off. Thanks.
Okay, Randy.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, Randy here with Heartland Payroll. As I said earlier, we do everything from startups to major acquisitions, payroll through HR, which includes applicant tracking, onboarding, tax credits. If you're looking to create more of a revenue stream and control those costs on payroll and HR, reach out to me, and through the Restaurant Association program, we'll be able to save you a lot of time and effort.
Okay, thank you. Debbie.
Hello, Debbie Krasuski, DK Consulting. I work on the customer experience, making sure that your staff is matching your value of your restaurant and your brand, empowering your staff, your owners, and managers to make the right decisions, have people in the right spots, and know exactly what they're serving you and bring the customers back.
Okay, thank you. Kevin and John.
Kevin, you gonna take this or want me to?
Sure, I'll take it. That's fine. Kevin Anderson, partner at Strategic Supply Chain Partners, and John and I work together. We are a full-service restaurant consulting company. We manage and help owner-operators and small to medium-sized companies in every line on their profit and loss statement and try to find improvement areas for them. In particular, 70% of what we're doing currently is in the consulting of food service distribution agreements with broadliners. We're helping to evaluate where the owner operator currently is at with their broadline distribution expense. We renegotiate those expenses on their behalf, and we're saving between 6 and 19% savings to those companies by the negotiation process that we put forth.
Okay, you want to add anything, John?
Business.
John?
In other words, we're the Walmart of the food business. We buy in bulk to save you money.
Right.
There you go.
Okay, Peter, you back with us? Can't hear you for whatever reason. Okay, we'll try next week. John Bond, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. We manufacture a string tying machine. In the world of everybody trying to get rid of plastic, we can actually tie up all your to-go products and give it an extra level of security for the delivery drivers so they can't tamper with it.
I had a meeting with John Bunn last week in person, and learned a lot about his company. And John Marinak, I think you should have a discussion with John, because I think some of your industrial projects he can help you with.
How long did he have you tied up?
Couldn't you help yourself, could you?
The one thing he does say, you know?
John McCabe, good morning.
Morning, I'm
Okay.
John McCabe. I'm with Carpigiani. We're a large manufacturer of ice cream, gelato, and pastry equipment. We also distribute ISA display cabinets for ice cream, gelato, chocolate, and pastries. And we go to market through education, and we work closely with showing operators how they can make a lot of money with low food costs and delicious desserts. Thank you.
Thank you. Darren.
Good morning, everybody. Darren Gull, Tracy.net. We take the aches and pains out of communication services. So when someone is starting a business or looking to decrease costs, we can help them evaluate what options are available to them and help them guide them to the right solution at a price within their budget. So Darren Gull, Tracy.net, taking the aches and pains out of communications.
Thank you. Terry.
I'm going to use Darren's line. Our team tries to take the aches and pains out of finding new places that are coming and opening in Florida and Georgia. We started adding a little bit of South and North Carolina, a little bit of Alabama, things that we get in. Somebody sends a release now. We don't just discard it. We add it in red so that people can see that it's not Georgia or Florida. It does help and they do like it, and I've gotten great feedback. If you need to see a sample of a lease report, let me know. I know, Howard, you didn't know about that, but our team had a little staff meeting, and that's what we decided to do because that's what I wanted to do, and it's going to work out real nice. If you need a sample of the lease report, just send me an email and I'll send it to you. Have a good weekend.
Helen and Dr. Rob are non-vendors.
I don't know, Helen, you want to speak? Delicious spoonfuls, mobile ice cream cart, coffee and dessert bar, employing people with disabilities. We're going to be doing events, parties, pop-ups, a whole bunch of different things. Plus, I also have a member of my board. He's a food broker for many years. Hopefully, he'll be able to distribute some of the products we have in some of the kosher and non-kosher establishments. Interesting thing is, I have one little problem, but I'm trying to resolve it. One of my board members moved up to Pensacola, and he's been in the real estate business, restaurant for many years, especially health. He wants some of the ice cream we have. The only problem is I can't find a trucking company or distributor to get it up there. So I have to figure something out. I hope I don't have to drive it up there myself.
No, Pensacola.
Yeah.
8 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours.
Right.
Robert, I do know someone who's in the logistics business. That what they do is they pair loads with truckers. So if you're interested, I can send you his contact info.
That would be great. That would be great. Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah, no
So
problem.
we could always get him other ice cream, but not the same.
Okay, did I miss anybody? Anybody have anything else they want to add? Peter, you want to try again? You're on mute. You're on mute now. No? Okay. Well, Peter's a business broker. He helps you buy or sell your restaurant. And if you have that need, give him a call. Again, to those of you watching or on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button so that you'll be notified when we do another video. And if you have a problem, give us a call at 561-620-8888. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. See you next week and have a great weekend. Stay safe.